Good afternoon. Welcome to our show. I'm Melissa Ridgen, and today we are putting fashion and style icons in focus. We've got Beaders, who are going to Paris Fashion Week, where their creations will hit the runways for one of the biggest and most prestigious fashion spectacles on the planet. And we have an Anishinaabekwe interior designer from Winnipeg. We talked to her about her homeware line and teaming up with Urban Barn, that housewares giant, for those of you familiar with Urban Barn. It's a great show. We're celebrating amazing Indigenous creators and artists here. But first, we can't really talk about style and fashion without mentioning the four powerhouse Inuit women on the cover of the February-March issue of Elle magazine. There it is right there. You know, these powerhouses, just they're representing, it's incredible. Model Willow Allen, designer Victoria Kakutanek, throat singer and TikToker Shaina Novalinga, and actor Marika Silla. That's them looking fabulous on the cover there. And they're part of an initiative by Canada Goose, this is inside the magazine, which is making parkas with Inuit in their traditional way, and in the process raising money for Inuit Taproot Katatami. That's an organization that delivers programming across the north, so it's great to see that. Okay, so let's get started here. Our first guest joining us here today is Destiny Seymour. She is an interior designer based right here in Winnipeg. She owns Indigo Arrows, this homeware line that she says kind of picks up where her ancestors left off. Destiny, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
We love your stuff here. Let me tell you, like, a lot of people here have been kind of drooling as we look at some of your creations online here. Before we get into, I want to know, I have a lot of questions. Before we get into the collab with Urban Barn, how did you get into the field of interior design? What made you want to do it?
Well, you know, I graduated from the University of Manitoba. I did my master's in interior design, and I started working at a local firm here in Winnipeg. And yeah, you know what? I've always just loved making things. Like my mom had a hair salon. I used to cut up boxes, make doll houses, and I don't know, just always making a mess, I guess.
That's what kids do best.
Yeah. And then as I got older, I realized this is like a passion of mine. And so I started working in a firm. The challenge was that I couldn't find any fabrics, products, finishes that really represented Indigenous people from Manitoba. And
right.
So I started making them on my own, like in the evenings. And really, I turned to the Manitoba Museum, which was just around the corner from where I worked. And they had like an amazing, there's over 3 million pottery pieces there, and things that I never learned about in school. And it's just, yeah, so that was kind of the light switch. That was about 2014. It took me 2 years to kind of figure out how I'm going to do all of this. And in 2016, I started Indigo Arrows and went out on my own.
And, you know, I'm just looking at some of the things. So I had mentioned in the intro saying, you know, you kind of picked up where your ancestors left off with this design. Get into that a little bit for us.
Sure. So when I was visiting the museum, a friend of mine, he's a Cree archaeologist. He's one of the curators there. He showed me a piece of pottery, and he said, look at this. We just uncovered this year, and it was over 3,000 years old, and it had all these markings. And, you know, that's what kind of, I was like, oh my God, I could see these designs on linen, on pillows, on, you know, table decor. And so I just, yeah. And then I work closely also with my father. So my father is fluent in Anishinaabekwe, and I would show him the designs and give him tobacco, and we would talk about them and, you know, hold ceremony and look at, you know, the names of these patterns and the meaning behind them. And so, yeah, it's really great. It brings my dad into my business, and I'm able to, you know, work with him and hear all these stories of him growing up. And so, like, my dad's from, like, our family's from Peguis First Nation, but like the St. Peter's area in Selkirk. And a lot of our family moved up towards Seymourville, Manitoba. And yeah, just a lot of time spent with him outside. So,
well, and having that, you know, your culture influenced in your work in such a way like this, I mean, I just have to imagine that you kind of float around on cloud 9, right? I mean, that's just, it sounds so joyous to have, you know, your culture there, your family there, all of it just kind of gelling to make this all happen.
Yes, it's been, you know, every year I've been learning so much. Like from year one, like I used to do a lot of block printing, teaching people how to create their own patterns and get inspired. And I don't have time for that now. Now it's, you know, I'm shipping out all the time. I'm actually in my basement right now, so I don't actually have a studio yet. I'm outgrowing my own home, and it's just really, it's really exciting. But yeah, it's a lot of work. But I'm just so happy that I can do like what I love.
No kidding. Is there a lot of, you know, have you, in your travels, have you found a lot of other Indigenous interior designers?
No, none. And that's the thing too, like going to school, just trying to find like Indigenous architects and designers. Like now there's more, like more and more are graduating from those programs, but like it's, you know, very, very few. Yeah. And so I've noticed in the past year or so getting asked to speak at universities, you know, recruitment, and trying to just inspire other Indigenous young people to go into this field, because I still do interior design full time, and then I do textile design as well. So it's kind of like a juggling both of them, but I love designing spaces and I feel like they work hand in hand, you know.
Totally.
So I have furniture that's coming out with patterns on the you know, all on the vinyl, and yeah, so I feel like it's just the beginning, and there's yeah, I'm excited.
Tell us some of the collab with Urban Barn. Like, this is when I'd heard about that, I'm like, oh man, you go. How did this come to be, and what does it entail?
It was kind of a whirlwind. It all started last June. I've been working with Marissa Freed from Freed Manufacturing here in Winnipeg. We teamed up to create a mask last year with my Ishkade, my fire pattern. And with that mask, her and I were able to raise over $40,000 for the Butterfly Club at Ganiganichik. Oh. And so, so that mask was like, that was such a fun collaboration. And then Marissa, she's also like running her company, and a mother of two like me. And she just she's like, let's reach out to Urban Barn. And I was like, okay. And anyways, Urban Barn was amazing. They just came back and they said that they were actually thinking of a collaboration. They already had that in mind. And so it was pretty fast. Like, we just kept meeting, and then we got the collection together. My dad named the collection, and yeah, so it's very, very exciting. Like you said, you don't see very many Indigenous interior designers out there. No. And so to have like this on such a, you know, a Canada wide, in stores, online, it's
already legit. We can already go buy it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So they're across Canada. They're in the stores. Online, you can buy them online as well. You know, we have a placemat, napkins, table runner, pillows, a rug, a throw.
We've seen, as we were talking to, we've seen some of these things that like drool worthy. Is this kind of the first thing that is going to be happening with Urban Barn? Do you think this is going to kind of lead to anything else down the road, or do you got your sights set on what's next?
We do have other things happening with Freed, and so yeah, we're looking at bedding, towels, things like that. So yeah, it's really exciting. Also, another thing, Urban Barn is donating a portion of proceeds to the Butterfly Club as well. Yeah. So this collaboration is also about giving back, which I feel is really important with these patterns, you know, coming from the land and being able to like give back to communities. A number one thing for me. They're so simple and so beautiful. So I have to ask though, you know, as a big fan of, like, I love watching like HGTV and all those sort of things, the design shows, the home building shows, the reno shows and stuff like that. Have you ever considered maybe, you know, a show in the future? Oh my gosh, that would be another dream. Yes, that would be so fun. Yeah. I grew up watching all of those shows as well with my mom, and yeah, I would be open to it.
Well, I think that this should probably happen. Well, Destiny, we're so glad to see this happening. Like, this is, I'll tell you, like, buoyed my spirits. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of things to get really super excited about now in the middle of a pandemic, and to see somebody hitting it out of the park like you are doing with Indigo Arrows. We are so thankful that you took time to come and chat with us today, and hopefully everybody at home knows to be looking for your stuff when they're in Urban Barn.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's time for a quick break. When we return, I'm going to introduce you to two designers who are, believe it or not, on their way to Paris Fashion Week. It's incredible, and we get to talk to them. Stay with us.
Join our conversation now. Send your thoughts to infocus@aptn.ca, like us on Facebook on our APTN News page, and follow or tweet us at APTN in Focus.
Welcome back. Winnipeg beater Jessie Pruden is Paris-bound for Fashion Week. We caught up with her and her brother Noel before they jetted off. Literally, they are flying there. She shared how this whole surreal, life-changing event happened. We are so glad that you guys could join it. Like, soon-to-be famous Paris Fashion Week creators right here on APTN in Focus. It's mind-blowing to me. It must be incredible for you guys.
It's ridiculous, yeah. Unreal.
So I think let's just start at the very beginning. When did you, you guys come from a family of beaters, is that right?
Our Auntie Doodley is an incredible beater, yeah, and our family has a bunch of artists in it.
And so COVID got you beading, is that correct?
Yeah, the first quarantine, I was feeling, depressed and bored like everybody else. And I wanted to feel more connected to people, and beading, turns out, was the perfect outlet for that.
So, and did this become, so you were doing it just for yourself at first, or did you instantly think, okay, I could be doing this and be selling the stuff too, because you sell online, right?
Yeah. At first I was just doing it for myself, and while I was practicing, I started making pieces for friends of mine, and that just kind of got the ball rolling, because then more of my friends wanted pieces, and then their friends wanted pieces, and then I was like, I'm going to make a separate account, and it just kind of blew up from there.
Were you laid off at the time? Because I know a lot of people, because of COVID, were at home, and so they were kind of forced into finding other businesses. Is that the case for you, or was it that you were working and this was just a kind of when you had spare time thing and it turned into something more?
Yeah, I had actually lost my job this summer before. I'd become disabled, and I was a restaurant server for about 15 years. Oh. And you can't do that if you can't walk very well, unfortunately. So I had actually gone back to school, and I was studying women and gender studies and Indigenous studies. And when the quarantine happened, I was still in classes. But those were kind of tough online. So beading really kind of took over everything.
Yeah. Noel, what's your role in the business?
I'm like her chief assistant beater. I was the first person that started working with her, and kind of the same thing happened for me with COVID, like being in the workforce. I was in working with the public, and it was just a little bit too much at the time, especially with the lack of information that was going around. So I stopped working there, and then she asked me to start working for her, so I did.
So your sister's your boss. Has that been the case your whole life, or is this new?
It's been the case a couple times, so it's not terribly new.
We've worked in a lot of places together.
Oh, really? That's
yeah.
Cool. I don't know if me and my brother could work together.
It's not for everyone, that's for sure.
Okay, so let's get, I love the backstory of all of this, but then how do you go from 2 years ago, start beading during COVID to, now I'm showing at Paris Fashion Week just casually?
Yeah, it feels pretty unreal to me, but we started partnering with this store in New York called Flying Solo, and they're a retail space, and they feature new and upcoming designers, independent designers, and they have a little showroom for celebrity stylists and stuff to come pick out pieces and everything. So their scouter found me on Instagram and asked me if I wanted to participate, and I was like, yes. And then 2 weeks after we got our retail space there, she messaged me again, and she's like, hey, we had somebody drop out of Paris Fashion Week. Do you want to take over their spot? And obviously, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This, like, I don't even, but that's just, was this a dream of yours at some point? It kind of sounds like this just came out of nowhere, but I mean, it's certainly an opportunity nobody's going to turn down, right?
Yeah, it felt like it came out of nowhere. I am obsessed with Fashion Week. I love fashion shows. Project Runway is one of my favorite shows of all time. But I never in 1,000 trillion years could have ever imagined that I would participate in something like that. That to me was just so far out of my realm that there is no way that I could have even thought that this would be, you know, an option ever.
That's crazy.
So yeah.
Well, so also on this show is Sheila Tucker. She's from Yellow Quill First Nation in Saskatchewan. She's living down in Arizona. She married down there. She's going to Paris Fashion Week too, and it's the same thing. It's flying solo. And she'd applied to go. She's got like these beautiful fedoras, this funky fascinator, purses. So I'm like, two prairie girls are going to be running into each other down there. Like, how cool is that?
I think that's amazing. I love that there's Indigenous representation at Paris Fashion Week. I feel like you don't see a lot of beadwork and stuff there, although I could be wrong. Somebody was telling me about some old Versace clothes that had beading on it, but I don't know if it was necessarily done by Indigenous people. But it's just so cool to have representation there, and just to have, like, I feel like family there. Even though we don't know each other, it's still, you know, one of ours. So I'm very excited.
I want to come too. I feel like
just come. It's fun.
We're doing this show, and I'm like, but I want to come too and see how it all comes down and cheer you guys on. My mind would just be blown. And I love you saying that, you know, Project Runway is one of your things. When I talked with Sheila Tucker, who, like I said, is going down there, we were both like obsessed with Fashion File when we were younger, because, you know, kind of kids of the 90s sort of thing. And it was like, I could still like hear that theme song, you know, and Jeannie Becker was just the coolest thing. And so she's like, you know,
was awesome. I loved her too.
Right? Yeah. And so then to be, you know, obsessed with those kinds of things as like a teen or in your early 20s, and then it's like now, you know, for Sheila to get her head around, like, I'm going to be part of something that I watched forever and never would have imagined. Like, you guys, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. We're so excited too.
So tell us a little bit about what you're taking there. So how many pairs are you taking? Like, do you have to, you know, does somebody else take your stuff and coordinate the outfits that the models are wearing, or like, how does it all work?
So we're taking 20 pieces. We were told to bring a really diverse range, because the way it works is that the clothing designers are the main pieces on the models, of course. So they're going to kind of be picking and choosing what works best. And there's also a stylist that works for Flying Solo there to help with that. We are guaranteed to have 8 pieces in the show for sure. So I'm not too sure how it'll be dispersed, or if we're like assigned to certain designers. I know that they asked us to send in pictures, and they're kind of like mixing and matching to try and pre-select just to get an idea.
Yeah.
But most of the decisions will be made like the day of.
Are you going to get to see any other fashion shows when you're there?
I don't think so. I would love to, but our show's on the 28th, which is the first day of Fashion Week, and then we're actually leaving on the 3rd. We're going to Amsterdam to take a little vacation afterwards.
Oh, much deserved, obviously. Okay,
Thank you.
I need to know too, where can people buy your stuff online?
Yes, you can buy it on our website at beadandbutter.ca. We update the site every Friday at 6 p.m. Central Time. The restocks until we leave are going to be a little bit small, but when we get back, we usually put up about 40 pieces or so on Fridays.
Okay, but I feel like if you are showing at Fashion Week and then you come back and you're putting up 40 pieces a week, I feel like those are going to go fast. Like, you can't just go to Paris Fashion Week and then come back and it's business as usual. Right?
That's what we're kind of hoping, because right now all of our business is primarily done on Instagram, and Instagram is such a finicky kind of thing. So I would really love for everything to just be a little more stable, so we can really take on some bigger projects and do some really cool stuff.
Oh my gosh. Where can we watch the fashion show? Is there somewhere online that we can do it? Do you know?
I know Flying Solo on their Instagram is doing live Instagrams while they're there. So they'll be showing the fashion show live. They have tons of videographers and photographers there, so they're going to be capturing everything. Of course, we're going to be posting nonstop about it, so it'll be a little obnoxious, but I'm not too sure if there's somewhere
Not
specific
obnoxious.
you can see the entire show.
Oh, I love this, you guys. I wish you all the best when you're down there. I hope it's just an incredible experience, and we look forward to seeing how Bead and Butter comes like after Paris Fashion Week. I just can't wait to see where your business is going to go. This is going to be wild. This is exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Us too.
Love those guys so much. Sheila Tucker is our next guest. You'd heard us talking about her. She is also going to Paris Fashion Week. Sheila is from Yellow Quill First Nation in Saskatchewan, but she's been living and designing in Arizona, where she shares 2 kids with her husband, who is a member of the Navajo Nation. So she started her design business there in 2019, but says that beadwork and garment making has always been a way of life in her family. She's known for just these incredible fedoras, but that's not all she's going to be taking to Paris. She's going to be featured also at that flying solo show that Jesse was just talking about. That's at the end of this month. Flying Solo is a showcase of independent new talent from across the globe. Only 10 people were picked to take part in it from all over the world, and we just talked to one, and we're going to talk to another. The show gives them the time to shine kind of among those big fashion giants who are also showing at Paris Fashion Week, like Chanel and Versace and Yves Saint Laurent. I got to speak with Paris earlier from her home, earlier this week, from her home in Arizona, and a couple of guests who are going to be joining her in Paris. Let's take a look. Sheila, we are so thankful that you could join us to talk about this incredible opportunity that you have. You know, your love of fashion, just in talking with you, kind of goes back as far as mine. You know, we're kids of the 90s who, early 2000s, you know, living for Fashion File. You know, when you were watching back then, did you ever in a million years imagine that you yourself would be showing at Paris Fashion Week?
I never imagined it. I actually used to wonder what it would be like. You know, to me in those days, it was unattainable. You know, it was something that I never even dreamed would happen because, you know, you come off the res, you move to the city, and you just don't imagine that you could fit into these, you know, shows that you watch on television. And I used to run home at lunch, you know, from times when I would live in the city, I would run home at lunch just to go watch Fashion Week because I knew it would be on, you know, the television. And I was just intrigued by the beadwork that was being displayed on these runways, because beadwork is a huge thing in the fashion industry, always has been. I just never imagined, you know, that I would be a part of it one day growing up.
That'd be your beadwork. You know, you've been beading for a long time. You moved to Arizona from Saskatchewan, from Yellow Quill, got married. How did your designs go from like your home studio, selling stuff online, you know, popular, your goods have always been popular, but to get noticed then for the inclusion into Paris Fashion Week? I mean, tell us how this happened.
Well, actually, it started with a friend of mine who's actually, she started out as one of my buyers. She came here, she's from New Mexico, and she came to my home. I had some earrings for her and a skirt, and I gifted her one of my hats. Her name's Anishinaabekwe. She's from San Barilo, New Mexico. She came in and she was just wowed at all my stuff. I had my work just kind of laying around all over my work tables. She said, "What are you doing? You need to be out there. You have to apply somewhere and get into the fashion industry." She said, "Your work needs to be out there. I don't see anybody like your stuff, you know." So that was my push. The other factor also was my husband took me to my very first ever fashion show. And it was here in Phoenix. He was going there to support his little sister who was modeling in the fashion show. And I saw these designs and I thought, hey, I could see myself having work on a runway, you know? So that's what it took for me to realize that it's achievable. So after my friend Sharina left from here, I just sat down and I Googled it. You know, I Googled how to get into Fashion Week.
As if that worked. Seriously?
And then
oh my God.
I just kind of winged it. I thought, I'm going to apply and I'm going to see what they say. And the worst they can say is no, you know? So I applied, and literally 2-3 days later, I got a response. I couldn't believe it. I submitted some photos of my work. I have a professional camera that my husband bought me, and I used that. I took some nice photos.
What did you submit for that got you into Fashion Week?
I submitted real close-up photos of my earrings that I made. I submitted a vest that oh no, that was the second panel. The first panel, I just put in a bunch of like earrings, skirts, you know, just things that I had in my inventory that I took quick photos of. And a lot of it was detail work. So I just mentioned in my application, because there's a description box, and I just mentioned that I only use real gemstones for my beadwork. I use a lot of fabrics that are, sometimes they're from overseas. They're very kind of hard to get fabrics. And I think that's what kind of caught their eye was, you know, the close-ups that I took of the fabrics and of the beadwork. So then it just so happened that we went on a trip, me and my little girl. We went to Paris, and that's where I found out that it was after I submitted a second panel of work for a panel of judges. And so I had to go through 2 panels of judges. And out of, I believe it's 120 countries where the designers were selected from. And there was 20 out of all, I think it was 100 designers or 200, I can't remember the numbers, but it was like slim pickings, and I was one of them. I was like, I was completely floored, you know. And I created a satin shorts with a kimono style belt. I created a velvet beaded Anishinaabekwe style beadwork on it. To the second panel, a belt. So 2 weeks straight, I was working like day and night, you know, beading, sewing, cutting, making my, you know, fabrics. Like, it was just crazy. And literally, you know, probably 2 days after, that's when my daughter and I went on my trip. I submitted everything. And then within the first week we were in Paris, that's when I got my email that I was selected. And let me tell you, I had to contain, I had a hard time containing my screams, like, you know, because they told me I was accepted. And, you know, so the rest is history.
This is just incredible.
I went to there was a fashion show here in Arizona that I was a part of. And from there, like, things just took off, you know. It's just, now I'm going to LA Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. So it's... Oh,
I didn't know about New York too.
Yeah, I just signed a contract for New York Fashion Week as well. So
this is
in September.
Insanity, you know.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And you're taking, it's 8 pieces that you're taking to Paris?
To Paris, yes.
Will do the same things get shown in New York, or you have to come up with new?
No. These will, well, a lot of them are already sold. So the things that I'm taking now, they will be sold. And then I'll just create a whole new collection for LA, and then a whole new collection for New York. So it'll be a constant creating of collections for each show. Which is exciting.
No kidding. Well, you're taking 2 of your very good friends and assistants from Saskatchewan with you to Paris Fashion Week. Nadine, who's from Standing Buffalo, and Sylvia from your community, Sheila, Yellow Quill.
Yes.
They join us now. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us too. 3 gals from Saskatchewan, residential school survivors, all of you making your way to Paris for Fashion Week. Nadine, I'll start with you. You know, when you hear that, what goes through your head?
It's always been a big dream of mine to go to Paris, and to go to Fashion Week with my good friend is a wonderful opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to the trip, and I'm very thankful she selected me. I'm excited for the trip. We leave tomorrow. We're packing and we're leaving tomorrow, Sylvia and I.
Yeah. So you guys, Sylvia and Nadine, are heading from Saskatchewan down to Arizona. You guys will be there getting ready and everything, and then you take off to Paris. Sylvia, you're going to Paris Fashion Week. At any point in your life, hanging out in Yellow Quill First Nation, were you like, oh yeah, Paris Fashion Week's on my to-do list?
I just thought maybe. Actually, it never even crossed my mind. Like when my cousin told me her good news, I was so elated and excited and so proud of her for her commitment and her desire to keep to her skill, her craft, her creativity. I'm very proud of her, and I feel honored.
Well, and Sheila, you know what, Nadine and Sylvia, what will they be doing for you, part of your team in Paris?
Well, Nadine, Nadine's like a clone of me, is how I always describe her, because she can do whatever I can do behind the scenes. So that was why I chose her, because it's very hectic behind the scenes. Things happen, mishaps happen, there have to be last minute fittings, adjustments, and I fully trust Nadine that she's, capable of doing whatever I can do without me having to assist her. So she can be off, fitting another model. I can be over here doing another model. And Sylvia, her role is, basically helping if, for instance, for my phone, if my son texts, he's a commercial fisherman in the Bering Sea. So if he's texting me and I'm in Paris, I want to respond to him right now, So Sylvia is going to be that person for me that's going to respond to my emails, texts, phone calls, anything like that.
Perfect assistant.
She'll be my to-do girl.
Where can we watch this fashion show from back home?
Well, I will share it on my Instagram account. So it will be posted. It's with Flying Solo. So you can also find them on Instagram. That's going to be live on the day of the show. And then, it can be watched live. So anybody that wants to go online and watch the show it'll be available.
Love it. Ladies, thank you so much. We'll be watching, and all the best to you in Paris. This is what you're doing us all so proud.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As somebody on our Facebook Live was asking if the earrings are heavy. I don't know if you're talking about these ones or if you're talking about the Indocity ones that I was wearing on the interview that we just had with Sheila Tucker. Neither of the earrings are heavy. They're all nice and light. So there you go. Well, coming up, we're going to talk to a woman who is helping incarcerated women get their beadwork to market and revisit the design house of Anne Muller, a Métis clothing designer. If you love sustainable fashion, she makes it all right here, made by fairly paid garment workers, not in sweatshops in third world countries. We just can't say enough about this sort of slow fashion, so we're going to get into that after the break. Welcome back. Well, back in the good old days, people used to make all their clothes, or they would pay somebody in town to do it for them. Well, there's a resurgence of this slow fashion movement happening around the world. Maybe not as fast as we would like, but it is happening, including right here. Anne Muller, she has a shop here in Winnipeg where better quality, sustainable products are made to last more than one fashion season. We had a chance to sit down with Adrienne Muller Dandino of Anne Muller a while ago to discuss. Here's that interview. We have to know how you got started in this business.
Oh yeah, that's always a big question.
Yeah,
because
this is incredible, and you think, well, what did this start as, right?
Yeah, it's true. So it started. So I guess in the clothing, you could see that there's a movement, that it's comfortable. So I used to be a contemporary dancer. So it all started, doing costumes for dancers and for my troops, or I guess at that point you would call dance groups.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a lot of money, so when we did our concert, we would do those. And of course, dancing, I created injuries, and I actually faced a a forge, a pivot time, I guess I could say in my life, where I had to make a decision if I want to continue dancing professionally or do something different. Because I knew around 25 or 6, I might have to change career or change, think of something else. So that's where I decided to go to human ecology to do my first course in textiles. And then I wanted to know how the garment was made. But, when I look back, it's really interesting because doing that course at the U of M in human ecology, it's where I really understood the behind the scene of the fashion industry, because we would do cases of child labor, of sweatshops, and I had no idea what that was.
That's where all of our clothes come from.
Exactly. Right. So then getting that information or that education, and then deciding, no, I want to know how to make the garment. Then I moved to Montreal to do my full design university degree, and just those two together, I was able to start thinking about, well, if I'm going to be a designer, what kind of designer I want to be, and what kind of clothes I want to bring for my customers. So all this to say, from dance to one course at U of M, all the way to Montreal, and then I started to come back to Winnipeg, where I'm from, to launch this.
You're, of course, Métis. Where community are you guys from?
Red River. Yeah.
Nice. Like St. Boniface.
St. Boniface, yeah. And then from Ile de la Crosse.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that people think of clothing being made here. Like, not only is it designed here, but it's made right here, too. Why was that important to you?
Yeah, these are like big questions that I started with when I started my company, but I keep on reflecting on it. And when I started my company, of course, I was a little artisan, a little designer. I wanted to create something good. My mom always, at the beginning, when I started my little company called MJ for my twin sister, and then Anne for me, she did say, if you're going to create something or build a business, we're here to help. So how would you help your community? How would you help the people? So, it was a big question, but for me, it really made me ponder. And that's where I looked at my heritage, too, because she said it has to come from you. And you can't just make things or make professional clothing. It has to have a story. And so I was taught from the get-go, you have to tell a story. You have to tell your story. And it has been super hard, especially as an artist, but it kind of opened some creative aspect or creative, bulbs in me, knowing that I really want to honor my ancestor, my Métis ancestor, throughout my whole collections, throughout even the growth of the company. I kind of, it's so interesting to start wanting to keep my production in Canada. For me, it was so important to just keep it in Winnipeg even. I wanted to buy natural fibers. That was just ready. And maybe it's because that's how I was brought up. I was brought up to not consume a lot, to always wear natural, to always use what we only needed.
What advice do you have for people who, like Indigenous people who'd be watching this saying, I have an idea, I just don't know how to make it happen or to take the plunge? Like, what advice do you give to people who say, how do you do this?
I would say, okay, so it's always hard to start, and it's always hard to actually build that confidence. So for me, I had a hard time selling at the beginning because people did not know who the Indigenous people were of Canada, and they did not know the story, so some had different perspective and stuff like that. And it's really just the past 5 years when we start talking about reconciliation that people start opening their minds to us and to appreciate us and to appreciate our art. But I would definitely say for the youth, there is help out there, and I would say come and talk to me, but believe in your art. I've had a couple artisans just selling their earrings, and at first they didn't know if they could actually sell it. And after seeing someone like me or we bring into the boutique and they get that positive feedback, it's like just believe in yourself and keep pushing, because if you have a story, and I know everybody has one.
And do you find like your clientele, is it more non-Indigenous people than Indigenous people?
Yeah, and I think it's because now they feel like they can support. Maybe before it was kind of like, can I wear this? Can I not? So that was a question. Right. But now I find they want to support, and they want to support locally, and they want to support minority companies, and the ones that don't have flashy, big promotion or that we can't get into the mainstream because we're so small or we're so different. So I find, more and more we get so many different customers from across the world that just seek us out, and then, which is awesome, because I think that's what we need. We need more people to look at the smaller companies and to support the minorities, because that's how we're going to swipe that fast fashion out and bring back manufacturing in Canada or in Winnipeg. Like, we were the hub of manufacturing, and bring back that little customized tailoring, because it all comes back to like slow fashion. You get something made for yourself that fits perfectly. Why would you go and buy 20 more?
Right.
You wear it, and then, okay, another style for a few years.
I love that conversation. Fashion really can be a wasteful industry. You should check out the documentary, The True Cost. It's on YouTube. It's an eye-opening look at the human and environmental toll that our clothes take on this planet. Changing where we get our clothes, whether we're supporting locally made clothing or we're buying secondhand, is something that we can all do regardless of income or location. So if you've got the internet, there's lots of upcycled and used clothing shops. You can just commit to doing it and order your stuff online. Okay, so my next guest, they're not part of Paris Fashion Week yet, but who knows, maybe one day that's going to happen. If you want to get your hands on items like earrings, chokers, dream catchers, lanyards, Sandra Burling can help you with that. She works with incarcerated Indigenous women, and she's selling their beadwork for them. She joined me yesterday to discuss how it all got started and why we love this concept. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us. We love this, the whole idea, the concept that this is. It all started with one beater, that's Triley Anderson. Give us kind of the backstory about how you and Triley got started on this.
My daughter was dating her son, and Triley was sending us gifts, beadwork, lanyards. And I had asked her if she would like to try to sell some of her work because it was so beautiful. So we set up an Instagram page, and I started selling on Marketplace on Facebook, and it's now morphed into about 17 ladies over the last couple of years.
Well, and this money all goes to these ladies who are beading. Are they all in Headingley?
No. So what I say is it's a non-profit page. They do get all of the funds that they make. I only charge the customer for shipping, and the majority of the ladies are in the Women's Correctional Center in Headingley, and there are a couple from the Federal Penitentiary in Edmonton as well.
What's kind of the price range of what they offer, and what do they? I mean, we know lanyards and earrings. What else do they do, and what's sort of the price range that customers could expect?
So it's been earrings and keychains and lanyards and lighter cases, dream catchers, medallions, pins. So the prices really range, for a dream catcher, depending on, let's say, a 3-inch ring, that would be about $50. But a 14-inch ring, that could be $160, $170. They're very detailed pieces. A lanyard that's 17 inches, that's $75, but that also takes about 8 to 10 hours to make. It's very, very detailed and very time consuming, one bead at a time. And so, it's nice that it didn't start off at that price point, but we've been able to get the word out there, and we started small, and I think we're at a good place now where we can charge you know, a relatively still inexpensive rate, but, you know, they're getting paid for their time.
Tell us what the earrings that you're wearing right now.
Oh, my friend Sadie made these for me, and I have lots of jewelry, lots of earrings. So Sadie was wrongfully incarcerated, and she was in Headingley for 18 months, and then got out, and she still continues to bead to this day. And it is her craft and her artwork is incredible. And, you know, she does a lot of custom orders. So we have quite a few ladies who are going to be coming out and reintegrating back into, you know, a new lifestyle. And they will continue to bead, and I'll continue to sell for them as well.
I love it. I had the opportunity to talk to Triley on the weekend. She's an incredible woman. She, you know, talking through her beading journey. She got started only a couple of years ago, like 2018, and she's now just doing these magnificent pieces that you're selling for her online. She said too, when she gets out, this is something she's definitely going to keep doing, selling her creations, and how beading has been such a calming influence for her while she's incarcerated. You know, just she said that this is just an exercise in patience. Like, it's taught her to be patient, and it's wonderful to do this. And I have to think, like, you know, if it wasn't for you and her getting together, you know, would this have ever come up? Would it ever have been a thing where we've got these things being sold across the world on Instagram? Tell us a little bit about the customers. Where are they all from?
You know, it's absolutely amazing because I've been all over various, you know, I think the word has gotten out mostly on Indigenous type pages, group pages. And so, I mean, I've sold as south as Florida and as north as Inuvik. And, you know, like from Vancouver Island all the way to Newfoundland and all throughout the U.S., you know, California, the Bronx. It's fantastic. And I've even had a couple of sales to Australia. So, and that really is on these Facebook group pages that, you know, have a good following. And even on my Instagram site for the ladies, I'm up to about 5,500 followers. So the word has really gotten out, and people absolutely love the project, and they absolutely love the purpose and to support. And even customers have been mailing in to me beads just to help them out. And they're gifting. I've had gift cards given that I can share with them, beads, and people have sent soap, and honestly, like, just handmade things. And, you know, it really has touched the hearts of a lot of people. What have you learned? What's your takeaway from this? Well, you know, it really was my daughter who really got me started in really paying attention to, I guess, you know, it was her kindness when we would be stopped at a red light and there was somebody asking for money. She was the person who was always giving a bottle of water or a couple of cigarettes or something and no judgment, you know, just helping people out. And I think it just started small, and me really paying attention to people and, you know, the fact that we don't know their story. And it's really taught me how to embrace love and respect and kindness and treating people with dignity and absolutely no judgment. I don't know why these ladies are incarcerated, and I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. That's their story. And I just want to be there. I talk to a variety of ladies on a daily basis, and we talk custom orders, and I save their money for them. Some of them don't have people who can help them when they're out in, you know, I guess when they're free again and reintegrating. They don't have people who can support them. They don't have family and friends that maybe they trust. And so I have a savings account, and I save money for people, and I email family members, and I buy phone bundles for them. And So it really has taught me true love, respect, kindness. And I really enjoy what I'm doing. It gives me, I sleep very well at night, and I feel that I'm providing, we're providing a nice service to people as far as sharing their artwork. And, you know, I couldn't be happier with what I'm doing.
I love it. Well, we think this is just such a wonderful, worthy project. We're happy that you could join us on our style show here. You know, we've got creators from heading to Paris Fashion Week. We've got, you know, interior designer whose creations are featured at Urban Barn, and we've got you talking on behalf of the lovely ladies who are making beautiful jewelry for sale. What's your Instagram? Where can people go and follow you?
My Instagram is womenhelpingwomen_beadwork. And I should say that there's a place on McDermott, New Era Emporium, and they are also selling the beadwork, and they're not taking a profit as well. So all the profits are going back to the ladies.
Perfect. Sandra, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us about this.
Thank you.
I want to say hi to Trilai. I hope she's watching. She's one of the creators of the fabulous jewelry that you just saw on the Women Helping Women. Well, that is a wrap on this style and fashion episode of In Focus. We are so glad that you joined us. I'm Melissa Ridge, and we're going to see you back here next week as we sit down with a woman who has 5 lawsuits pending for her ordeal in the child welfare system. That same system that systematically took her 4 children as they... Oh, you gotta go. We're running out of time. I'll tell you all about it next week. Tune in. Until then, take care.